Hi, and welcome to Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Today I'm going to read to you from Fall to Pieces by Becky Flade. Chapter 1. Lexi woke slowly. The familiar feel of her bed, the comforting smell of her laundry detergent lingering in the sheet pressed against her face, reassured her. I'm home. I made it home. Head pounding, mouth dry, and tasting like a barroom floor, or how she imagined a barroom floor would taste, and with 7-hour-old whiskey roiling in her stomach, threatening to reappear, Lexi opened her eyes. A man lay snoring beside her, his head down by her feet, and his well-toned, hairy body sprawled on top of the sheets. They'd lost the duvet while tangling over it in the pre-dawn hours. Lexi remembered without embarrassment picking him up at the bar and bringing him home with her. The vigorous sex she semi-enjoyed but couldn't remember his name. Bending a leg, she planted a foot in his cute behind and shoved him out of bed. Time to go, Romeo. Lexi stifled a laugh at the distinctively female yelp as he tumbled to the floor. The sheet puddled around her lap as she sat, but she didn't bother with false modesty. She reached for the water bottle she'd had the foresight to leave on her nightstand and watched with disinterest as her companion stood. Guzzling water, rinsing the taste from her mouth, she assessed. He was good-looking, athletically built, and a decent lay, but as dumb as a stump if memory served. Lexi had no interest in learning more. How about we get a shower and some breakfast? You can shower and eat at your place. Get out. Lexi capped the water and placed it on the nightstand. The foul stench of sex and sweat wafted, and Lexi gagged. She needed a shower and solitude. She wanted him out. His expression, disbelief and indignation, suggested he would not shake without some prodding. Lexi opened the nightstand drawer enough to reach inside, casually. Are you serious? As a heart attack. You bitch. The oath was low and his tone nasty. Lexi lifted her service pistol from the drawer and held it pointed down, suppressing the urge to laugh as he grabbed his clothes from the floor and hustled out of her bedroom. When the door slammed shut, echoing through the condo, she laughed. Lexi returned the gun to the drawer and stood. The room span. She extended an arm for balance until the world settled and staggered into the bathroom. Avoiding the mirror, avoiding herself, she twisted the knob to hot and stepped into the shower. Lexi stood under the spray, forehead against the tile, while the remains of the night swirled down the drain. She shivered, though the water beat down at her at a punishing temperature. It couldn't warm her. Nothing could. Lexi was hollow inside, carved out, numb, and empty in a way no amount of sex or whiskey seemed able to fill. I'm not whole. I'm not here. Her heartbeat sped up, and weight pushed down on her diaphragm. Lexi pressed the heel of her hand between her breasts as she gasped. She welcomed the sharp bite of anxiety. She welcomed anything that felt like something. It was proof she hadn't died alongside Robert. The pretty bathroom in cool shades of green speckled with blood, bone and brain matter. Her head spun, and she lunged, naked and dripping, from the shower to hunch over the commode and vomit. Lexi welcomed that too. The police academy looked like a school, which essentially it was, with classrooms, lecture halls, an auditorium, gym and cafeteria. But unlike most schools, the basement held a firing range, and officers milled with cadets even at this early hour, trying to get in some practice or requalifying. Lexi drew heads as she strode through the halls. Her looks had always drawn attention, and she didn't care. In the past, she'd enjoyed it, encouraged it. But since Robert's death, the eyes on her felt exploitative. Lexi struggled not to unleash the anger that always simmered under the surface of her skin. Instead, she nodded and smiled at those who hailed greetings and used her hip to push open the door to the locker room. Lexi stowed her jacket and sunglasses before donning the required ear protection and yellow-tinted safety glasses. With extra clips of ammo stuffed in her back pockets and balancing fresh donuts and cups of hot coffee, Lexi entered the gallery. The smell of lead and gunpowder did more to ease her headache than the fistful of ibuprofen she'd swallowed before leaving the house, and the rat-tat tattoo of gun reports made her heart race better than any hit of caffeine could. It was invigorating. Lexi made her way down to lane 7 and watched as her friend neatly put 3 rounds in the head, 2 in the heart, and 1 in the privates of the paper assailant, hung 20 feet away with practiced ease. Weapons down, safety on, clip removed, back away from the firing line, a disembodied voice demanded. Kylie Donovan secured her gun and turned, hands on her hips. "You're late, detective." "Astute observation, counsellor." Lexi held out a cup, pointed to the bag of donuts, and went about the business of switching out the slaughtered target for a fresh one. The range wasn't open to the public, but before joining the district attorney's office, Kylie Donovan had been one hell of a cop, and her husband still was. The range master bent the rules for her, and once a week, the 2 former classmates met for coffee and target practice before work. "Heard you had a good time last night." "Jesus, the guy left my place about an hour ago. How the hell did you hear about it already?" Lexi held the return button down, listening to the tiny motor grind and the whoosh of paper as she sent the new target flying. Kylie's words were gentle, but Lexi heard the judgment underneath. It wasn't anyone else's concern what she did or who with. Lexi had no husband to answer to. She swallowed down the lump forming in her throat. "Not here. Not now." "Cops gossip. You know this." Lexi cleared her throat. "I was on my own time. They should mind their own business." "No arguments here. You want to drink yourself into an early grave and bang every loser on the planet? Have at it. Not illegal, and the only person you're hurting is yourself. But if you want to keep personal business private, maybe you shouldn't be conducting it in public, or at least not in a cop bar." Lexi released the snap on her shoulder holster and palmed her weapon. It felt at home there, an extension of herself, something she'd experienced the first time she'd held a gun and every time since. Lexi set the 9mm down and lined up her clips. "Every bar in the Northeast is a cop bar, Kai. You know what I mean, Lex." "Shooters ready?" The voice boomed and echoed against the concrete walls. The officer to her left squared his shoulders, corrected his stance, and didn't look over. He heard this whole conversation. Damn it. The need to shrink back and to hide shamed her. The shame had pride crawling up her spine, strengthening her resolve. Lexi picked up the firearm, loaded the clip, and shot a glance over her shoulder. "I don't remember you being this bossy when we were students here." The volley of erupting fire cut off any response Kylie might have made. Muscle memory, innate skill, whatever was responsible, allowed Lexi to fire with precision, though her mind was elsewhere. Lexi wasn't wrong. Every bar in Northeast Philly was owned by cops, employed cops, or was patronised by cops. Some, more than a few, hit a hat trick. But Kylie wasn't wrong either. Lexi's peers, her supervisors, and Robert's contemporaries would have recognised her last night. She could have picked a different place, one outside her district. Self-destructive behaviour, the department's shrink had called it, along with survivor's guilt, and Lexi's favourite, professional suicide as opposed to actual suicide because she identifies as a cop first, a woman second, and a wife last. She hadn't gone back after that, and no one had made her. Lexi waited for an ultimatum, sure one was coming, to hand over her badge or return to therapy. But none came. She suspected what few friends of Robert's remained at headquarters subverted that eventuality. But she was pushing it and their goodwill. Weapons down, safety on, clip removed, back away from the firing line. Before you start, Lexi said, you're right. If I don't want people to talk, I should be more discreet. This is all I'm saying, Kylie grinned, and they switched spots. Lexi decided not to tell her about the strip of sugar glazed on her friend's cheek. Payback for the unspoken reprimand, whether or not I imagined it. How are Jason and the kids? They're all good, happy and healthy. I'm telling you, Brady was such a delightful baby, such an easy toddler. Karma's giving it to me with Jessica. She climbs anything and everything. She's not even 2 yet. How much of a handful can she be? We found her naked in the backyard, hanging from the bedside about 20 minutes after I put her up for a nap. Laughing hysterically, by the way. The kid has no fear. We can't figure out how she passed us to get out there. Lexi laughed. Sounds like my kind of girl. Well, we're at our wits' end. How do you baby-proof for an acrobat/ninja? Jason threatened to run away from home. Bullshit, he loves you too much. He offered to take me. Kylie winked and aimed. As Kylie fired, Lexi ignored the dull ache in her chest that mirrored the weight from the early anxiety attack. Kylie and Jason had earned their happiness, and Lexi admired them for it. Lexi wasn't about to let some odd pang of envy interfere with one of the few friendships she had. What if she and Robert had had kids? Or more? Pushing the useless question aside, why dwell on something she'd never get an answer to? She picked up her coffee and sighed as the heat warmed her throat, then her stomach. It wasn't much, but it was real. Focus on what's real.